Good evening, everyone. How have you been? This is your host, Mitch Bernstein, of the show The Burn with Mitch on 12 Ounce Sports. I am glad to be back. Was off last week, had a little vacay in Charleston, South Carolina. Had a really nice time, did some historical stuff. Really no baseball, but a lot of history. And if you haven't been to Charleston, you're missing out. You should go there to see a lot of and to watch and to learn about the history of part of our country. So I was there, so there was no show. But tonight, that's why I'm here. We have a show. Um, so let me tell you who we have first to get you ready. And then we'll talk briefly about the entire sports world and the things that went on in the week that I missed. Crazy sports world. But let's talk about tonight. So tonight we talk about the hobby, hashtag the hobby, with a gentleman from Card Life TV, Brandon Verzal. I hope that's his last name, correct pronunciation. I'll find out when he comes on in about 10 minutes. So we're going to talk about what the Card Life TV is, and we'll talk about the hobby. I have not been able to buy a pack of cards yet for 2022. I just can't find them, and I go to our local Walmart and Target, and where I look on Twitter, everybody's getting them, and I can't get them off the rack, basically. So we'll see what he's got for us. He's going to show us some things. We'll talk about what's hot, who's hot, and we'll talk about his format and Fanatics. Always want to try and get people's opinions who come on about what Fanatics are doing to do, what they think they're going to do, how it's going to impact the hobby when they take it over. Second guests are, in honor of Women's History Month, a woman named Carol Sheldon. Carol is a member of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League Players Association. She has a history of playing softball and women's baseball. So we're going to talk to Carol, and she will be with a former player of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, Mary Moore. Mary Moore played 3 years, cut short her career by injury, but just an unbelievable bunch of statistics that we'll talk about how good a player she really was in the league in 1950 is when she had her stellar season. So we'll talk about that, her experience playing Yankee Stadium, met some of the Yankees, including Billy Martin. So we'll talk about that with Carol and Mary, and we'll talk about women in baseball a bit too, because it's moving up thanks to, among others, Justine Siegel with Baseball for All. And our third guest is Ben Silver. You can find Ben on Twitter at Not Inconsistent. Ben's editor for Phillies Sports Illustrated. He and I are going to talk. What else? Phillies. We're going to talk about the Phillies and the moves and the things that have happened in the 2 weeks that I have been gone from this program, including March Madness. My bracket's busted. Whose isn't busted? I mean, this is crazy. It's so much fun to watch, enjoying it immensely. Down to the Sweet 16. Who you got? My bracket, I got Gonzaga. We have a family group of 24 brackets, winners ranging from Kansas to Gonzaga to Arizona. I'm trying to think of who else and what they picked. So we'll see. I'm not going to win anything, but it's just fun to watch these teams like, who was it? Iowa State with their swarming defense and their defeat, their win on I believe that was on, I think it was on Sunday. So NFL free agency starting, and a lot of talk about the Eagles missing out on a bunch of wide receivers. NHL trade deadline has come and gone, and of course we do have baseball. They're playing spring training games, and it's great. The only issue I have is that they are still thinking of, and the players actually want this. They want the player, the ghost player on second base in extra innings. I don't like it. Many people don't. They do. I don't know why they do. Maybe because of timing. They can get home earlier, perhaps. The game is running shorter. I don't like it. I don't think many people do, like I said. Hopefully that doesn't come to fruition, but if it does, we have to suffer with what we got. At least we're getting 162, and we'll be able to go to games. Looking forward to getting up to the Philadelphia area in the summer, so I can see my Phillies play. Not much around me in Wilmington except for minor league teams. Probably maybe go up to Durham, see the Durham Bulls. Haven't done that yet. Myrtle Beach Pelicans. We have a college league team, Wilmington Sharks here, and a couple of guys, including Alec Boehm, was a member of that team, and he is now in the major league. So, yeah, baseball's back. I'll try and get to some games. I hope you do too. We all love the sport. We all love being there, and watching our teams play. So it's been a crazy week in sports. And that's kind of why we all love sports. There's never a dull moment. I don't think there's ever a dull moment when a week doesn't go by when something big doesn't happen, whether it's controversial and Deshaun Watson, or it's just the things that we love to watch, which are NCAA tournament, baseball, NHL is in full swing, obviously, basketball, NBA is in full swing, and football's in free agency, and the draft is coming up in a little bit. So a lot of fun sports talk, and part of that sports talk, and I know I tweeted out to many of you today who I follow and you follow me that are loving the hobby. We love the hobby. We love cards. Most of you love baseball cards. There's a market, obviously, for the other ones, but I see the majority that I see on Twitter are those who have a similar passion that I do about baseball cards. I don't know that they remember many basketball or hockey cards, or there were football cards when I was growing up. But our first guest coming up is going to talk about his love for the hobby and what he does with his cards and his format. Welcome to the program from At the Card Life TV. Brandon, what's your last name? Pronounce that for me. Is it Verzal?
It's Verzal.
Verzal.
Yeah.
I had one or two out of two shot and I blew it.
I'm used to it. No big deal. I accept either one.
Okay, appreciate that. Hi, Brandon. How you doing?
Doing very good, Mitch. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I love having folks on who have a unique format. When I saw that on Twitter, I was like, I wonder what that is. You go live with TV. So tell everybody what you do.
So the Card Life is a TV show. It's the first TV show in history that's dedicated to the sports card hobby. And we air across the country on Bally Sports Networks. Most people know those networks. They used to be Fox Sports. Mm-hmm. And then they were purchased by Sinclair. Sinclair allowed Bally to pay to have their name on them. So they're now called Bally Sports. There's Bally Sports West, Bally Sports North, Bally Sports Midwest. They're all regional networks. And last February, I approached them. We produced shows for Fox Sports. My company has for years. Mm-hmm. And I produced TV shows in my previous life and with Major League Baseball teams and in college sports. And but when the hobby started getting a lot of buzz around it, there were articles in the Wall Street Journal. ESPN was talking about it kind of early in 2021, late 2020. I knew I could approach them and say, hey, could we do a sports card TV show? And we'd actually have a chance. And they responded instantly, said, yes, let's do it. I immediately reached out to Matt Strom, who at the time was pitching for the Padres. I knew he was a collector. He said, here's my agent's contact information. Let's make this happen. 3 months later, we were recording our first show in Phoenix, and we're just about to complete season 1. May will be our last episode of season 1. We're already signed on for season 2. The show airs up to 300 times a month across the country. And the great thing about what it's on Bally Sports, and they have about 15 NHL, 15 NBA, and 15 MLB teams under their umbrella. And these shows come on right after MLB games, right after NBA games. And so I get dozens of emails every week from people that say, I was watching the Oklahoma City Thunder game. The show came on. And after I watched your show, I went downstairs and opened up my collection for the first time since I was 16 years old. What should I be looking for? And so we're getting people into the hobby. I mean, the people that are in the hobby obviously love watching the content and love watching it being on a TV show for the first time. But we're also bringing people back in that see the TV show, and it did it for me. I didn't collect for 15 or 20 years between when I was a kid and about 10 years ago when I started again. And we're bringing more people in as a result of, just happened to see a sports card TV show after their favorite team's game. And that's how we grow the hobby, is through stuff like this. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Congratulations. I mean, that's just an awesome way, like you said, to promote the hobby. You got that, and you have that lead in. Obviously, your experience producing prior to doing this helped you get this thing going because you obviously knew people. So if I wanted to get on, okay, we have Spectrum down here, TV. It's not really good. We hate it. We hope Comcast gets their. But Comcast, I was in South Carolina last week, and they have Comcast. They skipped North Carolina and went to South Carolina. We can't stand Spectrum. So how would I listen? Is it on the computer or can I get on the TV?
I'll have to look and see in your area
okay.
what Bally Sports network is in that area and what cable networks they have an affiliation with. But after we air it for 30 days, it's all up on YouTube. So our full episodes 30 days after they air, they get put on YouTube. And once again, the same thing with the hobby. We have blankets of the country that we're not in. Like the Pacific Northwest doesn't really have any Bally Sports. Denver doesn't have Bally Sports. And literally, I post the show. I put on our social media that the show's on YouTube, and there'll be 10,000 views within 48 hours. I mean, so the people that aren't able to see it on their channels, they're waiting for it to post and watching it right away. It's been fantastic for the hobby.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go on and check it out. I mean, for me, I'm assuming do you have guests on there? So what's the format?
Yeah, so what we do is Matt Strom, who's the host, and he's now a pitcher for the Red Sox. He just got signed for the Red Sox less than a week ago, so we're fired up that he's going to be in a great market to promote the hobby. And what it's going to be this season and what it's been the last year is I look at the cities Matt's playing in, and I meet him in one of those cities, and that's our focus city for the month. So we've done Phoenix, we've done Denver, we've done an overall California episode. This last month was Oklahoma. I'm going to South Carolina next week. It's going to be a South Carolina show in April. And we just find good stories about the hobby in those areas. Not as much about, is this card going to increase in value? What are you buying now? Not as much that. Just great stories about the hobby. Our California episode 2 months ago, we interviewed Tom Guideman, and he was hired the day after high school. He was the first employee at Upper Deck. So when he was 18 years old, he designed the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. An 18-year-old made this card, came up with the design, came up with what the set was going to look like. And we interviewed him, now 30 years later, we were able to talk to him about, getting hired and what that was like. So, that's the examples of the stories. And in Oakland, we talked to Terry Smith, who made the Provisions cards in the early 90s, where Dwight Gooden had the flaming baseball and Joe Montana had like a robotic arm. We went into his studio and he talked about that process of designing those cards back in the 90s. We're just finding good stories, and no matter where we go, there's dozens of them to find and talk to people about.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this. Like I said, it's not necessarily about what we're going to talk about in a few minutes, which is who's hot and what's hot and who's hot. But yeah, yes, you continue to talk to people. We had a card show here in Wilmington back several months ago. I was doing the show, and from there, which was great. I mean, it's just I hardly was able to promote it much to people, but I was live, and I ended up taking this computer I'm on and walking around the vendors, and they would say, I would just sit with them, and they would be looking at the computer, and we're on. And I got I didn't expect many views. I got over 250. It was like, what did we? This is great. This is crazy.
So the hobby is incredible right now. It really is. I mean, it's just, and there's so much more growth ahead too. I mean, we're just hitting a peak now where there's just going to be more people getting into it. And I love when I'm going to those shows now, the number of kids that I'm seeing that weren't there 5 or 6 years ago even. And that's obviously a great sign for the future as well.
And that's what I was going to ask you. We've heard about, number one, baseball attendance declining. But the hobby's upticking. It's definitely a niche hobby, right? We got to get the dads to get the kids involved, and you got to grow that also through with Major League Baseball, who I don't think have done a really good job in promoting baseball to the younger generation. But yes, this is a start for sure, and obviously the pandemic, holy mackerel. All of a sudden, so this was funny. I was at home, like most of us were, and I would go to the local Target at some point. At some point, I went to Target. Nothing.
I know.
I have nothing. And then all of a sudden, Target puts out a statement. We're not selling these on the floor anymore. Now that's crazy. That was nuts.
Yeah, and it's remarkable that you still go in. I went to a Target a few hours ago, and I just walked by to see what's there. And there's a couple brands, some hockey cards maybe, but it's still picked over. And I don't think the resale value is still there. That's what's happening. But the good thing is, I think there's people that are going in and just buying them up because they want to collect, which is great. Yeah. I mean, that's always my biggest fear with that, is that we lose that younger generation because they can't go buy a $3 pack at Target or at Walmart. And I'm hoping, and from what I've heard of the interviews with Fanatics so far, they're going to create products that just don't have the long-term value that it's going to be worth it for people to flip them and things like that. I mean, even if you look at Top Series 1 this year, I grabbed my Wander Francos. I think I bought three hobby boxes so far. Okay. So I've got 6 Wander Francos, but in no way, shape, or form am I expecting these to be like a Trout rookie in 10 years. Because the thing is, everybody's pulling these out and putting them in cases. They're going to be in good shape. Mm-hmm. People in 2011 weren't thinking of that with Trout, that was going to be the case. Mm-hmm. And so there's just going to be a lot. It's just like Zion Williams, and there's so many cards out there of him that are graded and everything out. So I think it's going to kind of smooth itself out, but we need to make sure there's that sweet spot. You want the collectible, the people that want to pay $1,000 a box, they can have that market, but you want kids to be able to go in and just buy a pack.
Well, and that's what I need, Brandon. I don't have the dollars to go in and buy, especially now the boxes have increased price-wise by almost double. I'm not selling out $40 for a box, though I did see at Target there was, I'm trying to think if it was a 2022 or not, for the $21 price. Is that what? Am I wrong? Is that still a price that?
Yeah, that's about right. Like, and I just saw my local card shop I go to. They posted that they have blaster boxes, which is what you do normally find in Target and Walmart for $20, mm-hmm. which I think is reasonable. And you're getting like 70 or 80 cards. I mean, the hobby boxes, you're getting 200, 250 cards, and I think they were 180, but they went up to like 300 because of demand pretty quickly. And I think that's, maybe that's reachable for somebody like me, but a 9-year-old kid's not going to buy a $300 box.
And that's the thing. I'm looking at me as a 9-year-old kid because I kind of act like them sometimes, but I want to go in and pay, at Target a 3 years ago, it was $2.99 a pack, even $1.99. Yeah. They had the opening days on sale. And I didn't like the opening days so much, but they had them on sale for $1.99. Yeah, and I'm thinking, okay, that's great, but give me a regular pack. And then it was a $2.99, then it's $3.99. And I'm thinking, maybe I need to just go buy a box. and you know what kills me, Brandon? It bugs the crap out of me. I haven't pulled crap out of any one of these things. I'm like, look for the relic. Look for this. I'm like, I get nothing. And then on Twitter, there's one pack. Look what I got. It's a signed whatever. I'm thinking, geez, I'm not lucky. I just don't have that luck.
It comes and goes. You'll hit a hot streak here soon, I guarantee you.
Well, what's funny is I do enter some of these contests on Twitter, and twice in the past 2 years, I've won cards like back-to-back weeks. That was crazy. It was awesome. But I love it. So who's hot besides Wander? Is it Spencer Torkelson? Who else are you looking at?
I think the one that, and I hope that he makes the Royals. I keep hearing so much about Bobby Witt Jr. And this is also from other players like that we've interacted with through the show, that they're like, there are people saying this guy's a once in a 30, 40-year talent. And so I'm hoping that he debuts early or starts with the Royals right away, because then I think he'll be in Series 2 when that comes out. Mm-hmm. I think. I'm not sure or it might even be update later on the season, but that would be the next one that I'd really look at as a big one. I've grabbed like a Bobby Witt Onyx, which is kind of another card brand that's not a big one necessarily. Right. But I bought one when I was at a card shop, and I happened to pull, let's see, which one did I pull first? So this is a Bobby Witt Jr. Let me see if I can do it here.
Yep.
And it's an Onyx. It's autographed, but the cool thing is he signed it in his full name. Robert, I don't even know what his middle name is, but he autographed with his full name. And for what I've seen on like eBay, he's only done it like 3 or 4 times with that full name. And so I bought another one that had his full name. And I think there's only 2 more on eBay. But it's one of those things where I'm thinking, this didn't cost much, but if all of a sudden Mike Trout came out with cards from before he was a rookie, that it was the only time he ever signed his full name his whole career, they'd be worth a lot of money. So I thought it was fun to grab those. The other thing that I've been grabbing a lot of, and aren't new players, but I think there's a lot of current players that are going to be in the Hall of Fame that you can still get their rookie cards for fairly cheap. The Clayton Kershaw, Zach Greinke, Miguel Cabrera, Joey Votto. A lot of these guys, I mean, they're selling for 1/10 or 100th of what these guys that you're kind of speculating on. And these guys are going to be Hall of Famers, some of them first ballot Hall of Famers. And you can get good rookie cards of these guys in really good condition for $50, $75, $100. And so that's one thing I'm always kind of looking for is those guys. Another card I have here that's just a fun story. Matt Strom, the guy who hosts our show, we were breaking cards in Denver in one of the episodes, and he was breaking it from his rookie year, which is 2017. Topps Chrome was his rookie year. And of course, he pulls his autograph rookie in the box, which he was excited about. He's like, I usually wouldn't be excited about getting a relief pitcher's autograph, but he's like, I'm excited this time. So he gave this one to me, but I thought that was pretty cool seeing a player pull his own autograph out of a pack.
It's just classic. And isn't it fun, for us, and, people who don't understand, I guess it's a niche hobby. Again, when I go get that pack or that box that I pay for, I am so bad, right? I don't wait to get home.
Oh, I know.
I get in the car, I rip the sucker open, and I'm looking. I say, yes. Okay. Right? It's so funny what I do with what I get with these cards. So it takes you back to when Brandon, you are someone who has been around. Not that you're old. I'm not saying that. Back in the day, baseball cards was it for me. What about you?
Same thing. I mean, I was a junk wax era kid. I started collecting I was born in 77, started collecting in 84, kind of collected from 84 to 90, which wasn't the ideal time to do that.
Right.
The great thing was my dad had a collection that my grandma kept, so I got some great cards from him from the early 60s. They're mainly 60 and 61, 61, 62 postcards, which are the ones that got cut off cereal boxes and Jello things and stuff. And so they're really cool cards, but it's Mantle and Mays and Clemente and all those great names that I have in an album. I almost have the complete set of those. So I have some cool cards from that era. And then so 90, I went to high school, went to college. I worked in sports. So the last thing I wanted to do after I worked for the Mariners and the Royals and the Rays, but the last thing I wanted to do was go buy a pack of cards and look at the faces of these guys again after working a 14-hour day. So I didn't do anything with the hobby when I worked in professional sports, worked in college sports, didn't do anything with it. It took me starting my own company, moving back home to finally, start. Oh, when I go to Target, I'll throw a pack in the cart. And then, the next thing you know, you're buying every single thing that comes out. So it was a slow progression. And that's really a story I hear more than anything else is collected as a kid, didn't do it for 15, 20 years. back in it now, and it makes me feel like a kid again. And there's a lot of people like you and me, what you described. I have so much admiration for the people that buy boxes and go put them on a shelf because they're going to be worth more in 5 or 6 years unopened. I can't do that. Like, I could say I'm going to, but 2 days later, I'm going to come down here and open that box. I have to open it right away. It's just the way it is.
It's just there. It
is.
I got to do. So the funny thing was, so Brody the Kid, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So Brody's been on my show. And I said to him about a month ago, I said, Brody, come on. Let's break. Each of us do a rip. He said, okay. So I ended up buying a box, right? Didn't cost much. And I saved the one pack. And it was the one of the packs that had the gold coin thing.
Sure.
Commemorative coin. And I was dying. I couldn't wait to get Brody on to be able to open a darn thing. So we were opening, alternating, that kind of thing. It was awesome. Yeah. And the fact is, he's good for the kids in the hobby. The kids are looking up to him. It's so funny because I thought he was older than he is. He's going to be 14.
Oh my gosh. Well, he's been in it for a long time. I saw pictures the other day of when he was unveiling kind of Topps was doing their education program and stuff. And he was just a young little guy then.
Yes. So that's awesome. He gets lots of pub, which is great. Goes to the National, does some things there with a lot of folks. So it's really good for the hobby and doing that. So let's go to Fanatics real quick. A lot of people, trepidation initially, they heard about it. So you mentioned that Fanatics, you have heard some things that they doing something a little different, maybe to be more customer friendly. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard several interviews, Josh Luber, and then also Josh Luber's boss, which off the top of my head, I can't think of who it is. But I've heard several interviews on podcasts and stuff. And the things I think that are positive about what's going to happen with Fanatics is, one, the promotion side of it. The fact that they've signed both with MLB and the Major League Baseball Players Association, and they've done that for MLB, NFL, and NBA as well, means that there's going to be more buy-in from all parties involved and they all have a stake. They get more money based on the success of this. And so I think that increases the chances of TV commercials during the broadcast, which has really never happened before, that's specifically trading card related. Promotion in game, coming back from a break, going to a break, promoting stuff. And then, I heard one of the guys from Fanatics talk the other day about, the future in arena is the fact that there's going to be a screen in front of every single seat in an arena that'll have, obviously the telecast and stuff like this. But what's going to happen is that John Morant has an incredible dunk, and a little thing's going to pop up on the screen in front of you saying, hey, you could buy his rookie card for $90. Hit this button. And the way Fanatics is right now, stuff gets shipped. You get it the next day, 2 days later. That's where it's going to be is you're going to be direct marketing to people when they're caught up in that excitement. And they just have, they obviously have stores in all the arenas and stuff. And a lot of people are talking about, oh, it's going to be great. They'll be selling cards at the games, which they're kind of starting to do, but I don't get that. I get that for kids. That's great for kids, but who wants to rip a pack and get a card that's worth a couple $100 and then figure out what you're going to do with it for 3 hours while you're watching the game? That's not a fun situation to be in, actually. And, so I don't think that's as big of a deal. And, the more I hear, the more the local card shops are going to continue to operate as they are currently. So I think it's good. I was excited that Topps got acquired so that Topps was still involved, just because I think they're just such a big name that them not being involved in the hobby just seemed like I couldn't handle that in reality. And so I'm excited for where it's headed. And I think they will do that, having a product that those kids can buy for $2 or $3 at the store, that the flippers and the people that are investing, they aren't going to care about those cards.
Right. All right. Well, that's good. That's good news. I had no opinion. To me, most of the time you do say in life, change is good.
Yeah.
And I think that like you said, they've been around long enough to know and to see what's been going on. Hence the reason why they decided to do this. And like you said, they're already working on it. They already have an idea of what they think they're going to do. I think it's going to be positive, overall positive. You'll get the naysayers, but like you said, Topps is still going to be around. So I think it's good. I think it's good again because they're well established and they and not just in the card area, but you type in fanatics.com and look what comes up, right? It's just amazing. So that's cool. It's going to be fun to see what happens, right? Everybody's going to be anticipating. It creates a buzz.
Oh, exactly. And the great thing is there's so many other companies. Loop is a sponsor of our show, so I'll mention them first. But they have an app where you log on and there's 9 people streaming, and you make 2 clicks of a button and they're ripping the pack and then they ship it to you and you get it 2 or 3 days later. I mean, who would have thought a few years ago that would exist for sports cards? There's just so many people in this space that are coming up with new and innovative ways. And the sports cards are behind in that manner. I mean, so many industries have advanced and tried different approaches, and that hasn't happened in the sports card industry. It's started to happen already, and I think it's going to happen even more over the next 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. So Eric then, right?
Yeah. So absolutely great guy. I mean, we told him the vision of our show last May, and he said we want to be a part of it without even seeing an episode or anything. And Eric's unbelievable.
I had him on the show. I have to state this. Before Loop the app was even.
Oh, that's incredible. That's incredible.
I said I found him, and obviously Twitter's one of the good things about Twitter, you can do this kind of stuff without having to write a letter. And he came on, and it was I didn't have video at the time, so we were just talking, and trying to envision. And now every week he tweets out he's breaking records for sales. It's absolutely amazing.
Every month, I think 16 or 17 months in a row, they've broken their sales record, and they've brought on great. You don't see the things you see on some of the other sellers of problems with people being kind of sketchy and stuff. They do a great job of vetting their sellers, and I mean, log on there anytime, and you could be buying a pack that might have a Derek Jeter rookie in it, or you could be buying a pack that just came out 4 hours before. It's just, like I said, the space is incredible, and I'm really excited to see what comes the next few years as well.
So I must ask, do you have a favorite card?
Well, and I will show you. This is my favorite, and it's probably because of the story behind it as well. So this is 1990 Topps, but the famous thing about this is it's a no name on front.
Yes.
I promise. So the great thing about this card is that the way I pulled this is I showed up for a shoot at a minor league hockey arena here in town. I was doing a project for a nonprofit client in town, and I showed up like 2 hours early on accident, which I think I logged onto your stream 2 hours early. So this must be something I just do. And they had a card vending machine in this minor league hockey arena. So I wanted to kill some time. So I said, I'll put $5 in and grab 5 packs of different things. And 1990 Topps was in there. And I knew, well, that at least has the potential of having an amazing card, even though it's a 1 in a million card. Buy that. Of course, first pack I open up, the back is Frank Thomas. I think, well, at least I got a Thomas rookie card. Flip it over, and it's a no-name Thomas. And I mean, the odds of it, people have like calculated based on how rare they are. It's 1 in 400,000 packs or something ridiculous like that. And so I just couldn't believe, from a minor league hockey arena card vending machine came the card that I probably treasure more than anything, because of the story more than anything.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, again, we talked earlier, the first thing you said, the stories are some of the fun behind it, like the history of baseball. In a few seconds, I've got Carol Sheldon and Mary Moore from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League coming on.
That's
I mean, talk about stories and history. It's just, and we love the sport of baseball, and that's a piece of that. The history, the cards, it's all part of what we grew up with and what we love. So one last thing, we end on I won't say a negative note, but an irritable note. Okay. So I asked my guests, this is called the burn with Mitch, right? So the burn, what burns you, what irks you, and it could be in anything in life. So what is your burn, Brandon?
Oh my goodness. What is my burn? We already talked about it, but I'm going to say it. It burns me when I go to those Targets and Walmarts and do not see cards for kids to grab. That burns me, because I know that every time I went to a store when I was a kid, I grabbed a pack, and that's how I built my collection. That's how I became in love with baseball, became in love with baseball cards. I hate that kids will go for months on end and not see a pack or a box on the shelf and not be able to grab it. So if there's anything in it that burns me more, it's not kids not having that experience, because I think it's bad for the future of the hobby.
It is. It is. Absolutely. I remember going to a place I lived in Livingston, New Jersey. And we had a place called the Sugar Bowl. We go there after school, get an ice cream cone. They had the best coffee ice cream. Oh my gosh. But I would go get a pack of cards and smell the gum and take it home. And there was that wax you would pull up. Yeah, I mean that was it. I mean, I love doing it, and we still do.
And it's the nostalgia, like we've talked about. Then,
Yeah.
30 years later, you get the same feeling when you're opening a pack, but if you're never able to do it when you're 6 or 7 or 8, then you become too old and aren't interested in it anymore. So you have to get those kids at that age group. And the last 2 years have not been good for that. And so we need to get there again, because it's the only way that long term it's going to continue to grow.
True, true, and true. All right, tell us where we can find you again.
All right. At the Card Life TV is our handle, where you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, but also Bally Sports. We'll put a show schedule up so you can see in your area when it's going to air. And then it's on YouTube after 30 days. We'll be doing a South Carolina. We're going to be close to you. South Carolina show I'm filming next week, driving throughout South Carolina to do some cool shoots. And that'll be our episode in April.
Are you going to be in Myrtle Beach?
I'm not. I'm interviewing Tim Carroll, the card artist that cuts baseball cards, has cut baseball cards. That's one of my stories. I'm going to talk to John Mangini, who's in North Charleston, and he has the Mangini collection. He has an incredible collection of cards. And then I'm going to drive to the Shoeless Joe Jackson Museum, because they did a cool card art set about Shoeless Joe to raise money for their literacy program. And do a story on that as well. So I'm going to be kind of looping around the state. So we
were in Charleston last week.
Awesome.
Have you been there before?
It's been a long time, but I've been there. Yeah.
Just terrific. I mean, just a gorgeous city, a lot of history. I opened the show with it.
Yeah.
That's where we were on vacation. Just terrific. Have a great time on that trip. I don't think I'll be able to meet you. I would love to, but I'm working. Coaching our middle school baseball team has games starting Thursday if it doesn't rain. So
nice.
I'm doing that. So I'm excited about that.
Well, have the weather be good for me.
I will. Absolutely. I will put in a request. Brendan, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate talking to you. It was a real pleasure, and continued success. And I'm definitely going to check out the show.
Awesome. Sure. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Mitch.
Okay. Take care, Brendan.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was Brandon Verzal. He was a terrific discussion, brought the discussion about the hobby. It was awesome. Now, time for some women's history. It's Women's History Month. And we're going to bring on, now, Carol, I have to see. I don't see you, Carol. Is your camera on? Okay, we're having some problems with Carol. Let me see. She's listening. Okay, let me see. All right. I'm asking her if, Carol, can you hear me? Is your camera on your computer? Because I see that you're there, but I can't get you. Okay. Were you able to click on the link? And did it access your camera, which it should have? For some reason, I don't see you. Can you see me? Carol is chatting with me as we speak on the private chat. So here's what we're gonna do, Carol. I'm gonna send you, if we can't get you on the camera, which is unfortunate, I'm gonna send you my phone number to give me a call. Is your mic? Let me send you my number. You can give me a call on my phone, and we can just do it through the computer. All right. We'll just do that. Sometimes it happens. All right. We're going to have Carol give me a call. She is with Mary, and unfortunately, we are unable to connect with the camera. Don't know why. Everything on my end is looks like it's working, but we'll just have Carol give me a call, and we'll do it through the phone here, folks. Do it the old-fashioned way. Just would have loved to have seen Carol and Mary in person. So, Carol, go ahead and give me a call that I get on that number I just gave you, and we'll chat. Mary, Carol is a member of the Women's Baseball Hall of Fame. Um, she is a player of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League Players Association. Tons of experience playing softball and baseball in Michigan. And Mary Moore played 50, 51, 52 in the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. Phenomenal season in 1950. And here's Carol now. And we're going to talk to Carol. Hi, Carol.
I can't, now I can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you on my phone. But
Okay.
The mic is off and the camera's off, and I've never used this program before.
I got you. Hey.
I use the other one.
Things happen.
Here, though.
Things happen. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Even though I can't see you, which I would have loved to, and Carol, it's still that fact that we're going to be able to talk a little bit is the most important thing.
Update your browser settings. I don't know how to do that.
Well, it's okay. You know what? We'll just do it by talking, and everything will be fine.
Okay.
Okay. So, Carol, I just said that you have a huge amount of softball and baseball experience.
Yes.
And you are a member of the Women's Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yes, I am. It's an internet Hall of Fame at this time, and there's probably about, 30 to 35 players. We have quite a collection from her league in there, plus people like Dave Dickerson. So it's quite the honor to be on the same page with people like that. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And what accomplishments? How do you think you got in there?
Well, my baseball coach from South Bend, John Kovach, who was very instrumental in getting women's baseball up and running again in the 1990s, along with Jim Glennie, who was the assistant attorney general for the state of Michigan at the time. And he actually Jim was responsible for really getting the first USA team up and running. So it came from a couple of my softball teammates saying, anybody want to try baseball? And of course, I came from the generation of women or girls that were not even allowed to play t-ball,
right,
let alone baseball.
Correct.
So I thought, I love baseball. I'm a huge Tiger fan. So I raised my hand and I said, yes. I got to hit my first time up and just kept running.
Yeah, and you I like the way you said that. You just kept running. Nothing stopped you. And I think it sounds like, Mary, you did the same thing. You love baseball and you found out about a tryout. Is that right?
Yes, my high school English teacher had put me in touch with a girl that had graduated, and because I didn't know anything about this baseball league, and so she put me in touch with this girl, Doris Neal, and then another friend, Helen Filarski, took me to South Bend, Indiana for a tryout.
And what was that like? How many women were there? You remember?
Well, in South Bend, I mean, because Helen already played for South Bend, that was just their team that was there, for spring training, plus a few others that were trying out. But after that, of course, I didn't get to stay there. They sent me on to Chicago for more training. And there was, I don't know, 50, 75, 100 gals. They're all trying out because they were looking for 2 teams of 15 girls each. And they were going to be the touring team, or kind of like the farm team for the league. And so I was able to make that team.
And how excited were you to be when that happened? When you realized you were there, how exciting was that for you?
Oh, it was like through the moon, I'll tell you. It, because back in my day, I mean, there was hardly anything for women or girls sports. Like in high school, we did not have any team. We were allowed to take 1 hour of gym in our senior year.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
we had to split the gym with the boys. So that was the extent of like teams or anything for girls back then. And so being that I loved outdoors and I would go out in the field and play with the boys. And so that's how I got interested in the baseball in the first place. And so when I was able to make the team, I mean, that was just like the greatest thing on earth.
And you then were traveling first, correct? Before you settled into the 3 years that you played. Is that correct? Before 50?
Well, 50 was my first year.
Right.
That was the traveling team.
That was the traveling team. Okay.
Yes.
You had a heck of a year, my friend. I'm looking at your statistics now, and I think I figured out that your on-base percentage that year was 457. Because you had 297 at-bats, 75 hits, and 61 walks. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And you hit 3 home runs.
Yes.
Now, Mary, how tall? How are you a big person?
What was that?
Are you a how
A big person.
a big person?
No, not really. About 5'5". Back then, I weighed about 145.
Okay, so
And,
were these home runs over the fence or inside the Parkers?
inside the park, because
Okay.
most of the time in our travels, there weren't any fences because we were just playing in either major league ballparks or just recreation places, and they didn't have fences necessarily.
Gotcha. And you stole 20 bases that year, so you did have some speed, so that helped you a lot, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We saw some things in the movie that depicted the girls sliding and coming up with major raspberries. I've had that happen too to me. It's no fun, but I can't imagine what it was like with what you were wearing. And was that depiction in the movie pretty much what you guys wore?
Oh yeah. Yep, that was what we wore.
And I'm sure you had a lot of ice on hand after the fact, after you slid. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine.
A lot of antiseptic and a lot of bandages.
I can imagine. So again, I go back to the movie, and it's Women's History Month, and I've talked about loving the Negro Leagues too because it's history. And Bob Kendrick, the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, has always said, they didn't know they were making history, right? They just wanted to play. And I'm assuming the same for the girls. You just wanted to play, correct?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. We had no idea what would happen afterwards. We were just so happy to be able to do this during this time when it wasn't, a usual thing,
Mm-hmm.
and actually get paid for it and help actually the country, to give them some recreation during the war.
Right. So what was it like? You said you played in some games with no fences and recreation parks and that kind of thing, but then you ended up playing in some fancy places. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, we were in New York, and we played in Yankee Stadium before one of the Yankee games, and we got to meet like Casey Stengel, Yogi Berra, Phil Rizzuto, and Joe DiMaggio, and all them guys back in 1950, which was, a tremendous honor. to just even be playing in the park, let alone meet all these guys. And of course, we're there to play a game. So, I mean, we, can't get autographs or anything like that.
Right.
And so we just play our game. And then afterwards, of course, we got to stay and watch their game. But it was the most amazing thing to walk out on that major league field. It was just awesome.
I can't imagine. I was going to ask you. I mean, just to be able to go onto the field and look up, right, had to have been so awesomely unbelievable.
Right. And major league parks, I mean, they were so much different than most of the places that we had been playing when we were traveling. And so, I mean, it was just like another world out there playing in that park.
Yeah, I can't imagine that that memory has stuck with you and will continue to do that for sure. Tell me a little bit about one of those games, a game that you played that was one of your best. What do you remember from any one of those games that you played any of those seasons?
Well, we had one game where we had a triple play, and it was a very unusual triple play. There was no force out. There was no, fly ball.
Okay.
We had gals on first and second. There was a hit to the outfield. The girl on second started course for home, and they threw the ball in and got her in a rundown play, real quick like.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was out, and the girl that was on first, she had rounded second. And of course, the girl that hit the ball, she's heading to second.
Right.
Well, of course, I was a second baseman, so I go back to cover the bag. So the girl that was running home or towards third, she stopped and headed back to second. Well, the girl that was hit the ball, she's already heading for second also.
Right.
So I just stood there on the bag, and as they came in, I just tagged this one and that one.
That's the easiest triple play I've ever heard of. You did it all by yourself. That's awesome. That's so funny. Oh, that's great. And that's how often does that happen, right? Especially that way. I mean, usually it's third to second to first, pop up, line drive, boom boom. But no, this was a hit. That's amazing. That's amazing. So the movie is made. A League of Their Own.
Right.
Have you been impressed with the amount of interest in the women's baseball league since that time? Because I know it's been with Justine Siegel and Baseball for All girls getting in, and they just had their club college championships, right? So, whoop, getting some feedback.
Well, that's because I've been trying to get us on.
Okay.
I don't know what I did now.
Okay. We're gonna have some dogs. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
I'm looking at our dog park as I look, and I think one of them just pulled his ears. Look this way. But
there we go.
So, yeah, that had to have been so. It has to be gratifying for you, isn't it, to see how much interest there is now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it still blows my mind that so many people are still interested, and how many are interested. And, I still get fan mail. In fact, just a week or two ago, I got it from a service person that was in the military. And, and they're wanting autographs and pictures. And, I mean, so it's not just kids. I mean, it's a lot of the older people. And, I mean, it just keeps going on. And it's amazing.
And you were part of that. And again, that has to be so cool for you to know that, listen, you were the start of this, and through the years and to present day, people like Carol and Justine and Donna Eden Cohen, and Ryan Woodward, just continuing to push and Maybell, and just pushing to get more girls playing. I mean, I'm excited. I'm coaching a middle school baseball team, and I have one girl come playing. I mean, it's just awesome, and it kind of like, again, history. You didn't know you were making history, you just wanted to play, and look what's happened from then on. And it's just, and it's a fact, and it's happening, and it's going to continue to grow, which is great. Question about going back to what you had to go through when playing, the playing environment. Not in the major league parks, not in Yankee Stadium, but in the others. What kind of crowds did you have?
Well, when we were traveling, we had pretty good crowds because we had a PR guy that, went ahead of us. And so in each town that we played, like half of the revenue would go to one of their charities. And so, the town people, well, of course, this was during gas rationing too back then. They couldn't, go too far. So, most of them were staying home, working in the factories, and this was recreation for them. So they were all, they came out 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people.
Up to 5,000. I mean, I think Peoria Red Wings set the record, I think in 48, 47 or 48 with a little over 5,000 people. I've seen a picture of the stadium filled. It was pretty awesome.
That is awesome. Hey, Carol, real quick, I'm going to ask you about Peoria. My in-laws are from there. My wife's from there. Are there any remnants of where you played there?
It's there.
Is it there?
It's a football field.
Many
of the fields these ladies played on, were football fields because they had more stands.
Right.
And then they would close off one of the fields, to make right field or left field fence. So you didn't have such a lawn, one field really long.
I'm wondering.
But many of the fields were football. In fact, if people go to our website, which is aagpbl.org, there is an area when you go to resources, I think it's resources, and hit the drop downs. I spent quite a time putting the directions, the locations of all the fields and pictures of what they look like back then and what they look like today.
Very cool.
So several of the fields are still being used for baseball. Springfield Sally's.
Yeah.
That field is still it's part of the Wood Bat League now. It used to be part of minor league system for the Cardinals.
Okay.
The Racine Field is still there and being used. Muskegon is probably about 107 or 8 years old now, but they've refurbished it. Some of the Negro League teams played there.
Yep.
And they still have a very active league that plays in that stadium. The Inland Kenosha Diamond is still up and running. The one that was called Lakefront is no longer there, but they do have it used to be a minor league team. I think they're called the Kingfish or something like that now. There is still a field that's near the water. Gotcha. And my softball coach used to talk about that in the early fall or in the early spring, the fog would roll in off of Lake Michigan to the point where you could not see anybody.
Oh, man.
And sometimes they'd keep a little extra ball with them.
Yeah.
And they would just yell, I got it, I got it, I got it. And then throw the ball in that they had with them.
Oh, that's too
funny.
funny.
The umpires couldn't see either.
Oh, my gosh. That's great.
So all of a sudden, the fog would just roll in off Lake Michigan.
Oh, my gosh. I don't doubt it. Do you think that stadium, because we go back to Peoria every year, is that, I'll do the research. Do you have a Peoria on there? It's the Peoria Stadium?
High school football field. I don't believe they're using it for high school football anymore, but I had an awesome talk with the groundskeeper there.
Okay.
He's been there for about 35 years. That field, and one of the projects we're trying to work on is getting plaques put up at all the fields where these gals played.
Great.
But that field has a huge history. It was a horse racetrack. It was a car racetrack. There used to be a landing strip behind the football stadium. And actually, Charles Lindbergh used to fly in and out of it.
All right, I'm going to have to look at this. My brother-in-law, civil engineer. My father-in-law also, may he rest in peace, unfortunately, probably knew about it. So I have to do some research on that. I'm glad you inspired me just now to do that. Talk about
And of course,
inspiration.
Rockford Field's been rebuilt.
Okay.
And I've had the chance to play on that field, the Kenosha Field, the Battle Creek Field is still there. So it's been, to walk onto those fields and play in the same spot where these gals played was a tremendous emotional experience, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Mary, listen, also an inspiration, and I only have a couple more minutes, but read about your accident with your fingers. But that didn't stop you, did it?
No, I did go back and try, but of course I wasn't doing as well. Hanging onto the ball and trying to grip the bat.
Right.
And so actually in 52, at the end of the season, I slid into second and twisted my ankle 2 weeks before the end of the season. And Jimmy Fox and my manager, Joe Cooper, carried me off the field.
Jimmy Fox?
Yes.
And then when I got my contract for 1953, I just didn't go back because, I was just keeping someone else from doing it. And I had another job because, jobs were hard to get in the off season.
Yeah.
And so I had another job and I just thought, well, I guess that's it, So, of course, I did go back to playing fast pitch and stuff like that. But we were supposed to sit out 5 years.
She was still playing up until 2010.
Oh my gosh, Mary, that's awesome. And Mary, I've seen pictures of you. You look terrific. So continue to do what you're doing. Hey, real quick question, Carol and Mary, do you guys go to any collector shows?
I do.
Okay.
Lot. And Mary's she's done a few with autographs. We do the fan fest for the All-Star game every year.
Oh, you do?
And
okay.
we literally have to cut the line off because people just keep getting in line for these ladies.
That's awesome.
Just find them fascinating. It's pretty cool.
So here's the thing. I've got to see I have a daughter who lives in California, outside of LA. All-Star game is in LA. I said, would you find some friends of yours that can give me a ticket to go? Or I'll just even go to the fan fest. You don't need a ticket for that, do you?
Well, yeah, you do. Well, I mean, you did. I had a ticket you have to have tickets because we've been to enough of them like Cleveland and Detroit and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. You have to have tickets for those two.
I'm going to look into that because I am not working in the summer and I got time and I want to do this and I want to see you guys. So listen, Carol, thank you for assisting with this. Mary, an inspiration historically. And I really can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on here with me. Even though I couldn't see you, I can picture you. And I really appreciate what you've done for the history of the game and continued success and continued good health.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate being on here too.
And
we have an event down your way.
Where?
July
Where?
1st at Gastonia.
In North Carolina. July 1st, you said?
July 1st. You can check with them. I'm working with Sam, who's their PR guy there right now, because that's one of the things that I do. I work with a lot of the major minor league and independent teams, because this year is the 30th anniversary of the movie.
Yes.
So we're getting a lot of phone calls now that we're coming out of COVID.
Yep.
And a lot of the gals want to go back out and start seeing people again.
Well, I'll see what I can do. I would love to meet you both.
Okay.
All right, Mary, Carol, thank you so much again. I really appreciate you coming on. Even if I couldn't see you, to talk to you was just awesome.
Get the audio or the video working.
That's okay. We got through this anyway, right?
All right.
All right, take care, ladies. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, that's just totally awesome. And now somebody else is totally awesome is coming on. His name is Ben. His name is Ben Silver. And he looks like he's 12 years old, for crying out loud. Ben, what are you doing being an editor at 12 years old? You're not 12.
I don't know. I've had a passion for writing ever since I was like 2 years old. So, after 10 years from 2 to 12, I figured something out. But wow, Mary Moore. Tough to follow that.
Well, you know what? You will be fine. Isn't that cool, though? Isn't that cool?
Oh my God. I can't believe it. I was looking into her, just in the past 5 minutes, making sure, she's the Mary Moore I've heard of. And
yeah.
Wow. Well, what an amazing career. What an amazing life she lived.
Isn't
Played
it, though?
baseball till 2010.
Isn't that amazing? That and again, Negro League, same thing I said to them. They didn't know they were making history. They wanted to just play baseball, right?
Yeah.
And they were, and they filled the need for people that needed a place to go during the wartime, and they did it. And even after the war, I mean, people, they flocked to the women's leagues. It's just awesome. One of my favorite movies of all time, by the way. Actually, it is my favorite movie of all time.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it's a great film.
Tom Hanks, man, that's his best role. But let's forget about that for now. Ben, what about these Phillies? How about these pickups? Are you pumped or what?
Oh boy, I am pumped. I was up at midnight the other night when they announced Nick Castellanos, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I ran up and down the block a few times to wear off my adrenaline, and I'm like writing, I'm producing videos. I was up till 4 a.m. I couldn't keep myself calm.
I mean, when you look at you look at this lineup, they're mashers. I mean, just unbelievable. I mean, I tweeted out, I don't know if you saw my tweets, this could be a team that could go back to back to back to back to back. Literally.
Yeah, no, I think for the first time in Phillies history, there are 4 players in this lineup that could hit 40 home runs legitimately. And I don't think that's, a non-zero. I don't think there's a non-zero chance of that. I think, Bryce Harper's hit 40 home runs before. Both Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber were on pace for 40 home runs, and I don't think either of them played a full season. And Rhys Hoskins, same thing, was on pace for, I think, 42 home runs. There's no holes in this lineup. People like to talk about lineup protection a lot and how, and the end of the season last year, how Bryce Harper didn't have anyone hitting behind him to keep pitchers from pitching around him. But now you have Hoskins and Schwarber and Castellanos, and on top of that, you add JT Realmuto. On top of that, you add Didi Gregorius, who I think is on line for a bounce back. There's a lot of potential in this lineup.
Yeah, and let's talk about Didi for a second, because we hated what he did last year, right? It was just so depressing to watch. Yeah. But did you read the article about him? I don't know if
of course,
right?
Yeah,
he had elbow issues all year.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't throw the ball. He couldn't extend on his swing.
Yeah, I think the swing thing was a lot more apparent. Not being able to throw to the ball, I guess, was somewhat noticeable, but his range also as a defensive player at shortstop, that was noticeable as well, and that's not something that's affected by the elbow. So he still has a long way to go in becoming a decent fielder again, but he has a track record of it. He's shown that he can be a mediocre defensive shortstop, and really that's all we need. That's all the Phillies need, excuse me. But Didi is certainly a bounce-back candidate. Even his batting average on balls in play, I'm not sure how in tune you guys are with analytics. A
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but he's in line for a bounce back, even without the healing of his shoulder.
Yeah, well, and that's good. We need him to be. We need the entire team to be a little bit better defensively, right? Mm-hmm. And we need. I don't know what your thoughts are on Ranger. We know how well he finished out the season. Can he do this now as a starter in the rotation from the beginning of the season? What do you think about Ranger?
So he's not going to repeat what he did last year. No one's ever going to repeat what he did last year, other than Jacob deGrom. But what I do think we're going to get from Ranger is if he can stay healthy the whole season, I think he's the sort of guy that could pitch 220 innings a season. I think that Ranger, he's going to go out there, he's going to pitch 6.5, 6.2, 7 innings every night, and he's going to give you 2 or 3 runs, or he's not going to allow more than 2 or 3 runs. Ranger Suarez is a guy that you want on the mound in a big game. He's got ice in his veins. He's cold. He shows no emotion, and that's exactly what I want out of a starting pitcher. The guy looks like he belongs on the mound.
Yeah, he did so well last year at the end. I mean, every time I watched him pitch and watched the game, I was like this.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, look at how good this guy is. Where have you been all our lives? Yeah, that type of thing. right? Elephant in the room, Odubel.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when they decided, when you started hearing things, and then when it became a thing?
Well, obviously, it's upsetting to say the least. I did hear recently that he's gone on for imaging and an MRI on, I believe it's an oblique strain or a quad strain.
Yes,
So it looks
that's
like
right.
he'll miss the beginning of the year. But it's really upsetting that they're hiring guys like that and Uris Familia. At the very least, I don't think we're going to be seeing that much of Odubel and Familia. I don't know. You got to live with it. I'm not going to root for the guy, but I'll root for the uniform that he's wearing.
Yes. Hold on one second. I got to turn the light on.
Yeah, go ahead, Mitch. Take your time.
Let's turn this light on. There we go.
Yeah.
How much better is that? Thank you there.
Oh, so much better.
Oh, yes. You can see this handsome face like I can see yours.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere. You've heard that before.
Yes, yes, I have.
So I'm looking at, Kevin Long working with the hitters, Alec Bohm specifically. We can only hope Alec Bohm fixes himself, gets fixed with Kevin Long, because if he starts to hit like he did 2 years ago, taking the ball the other way, hopefully cutting down again on the strikeouts. We don't know what his feelings are going to be like. That's going to be, again, another issue. Give me your thoughts on him.
So Bohm, I have some guys that I'm really excited about, but unfortunately with Bohm and Herrera, you got me with two back-to-back that I'm not that excited about. Bohm had a BABIP, and I'm using it again. I'm sorry to all you non-analytics nerds out there, but his BABIP in 2020, the year where he hit 338, was 405, which is completely unsustainable. Last year, it felt more reasonable, like 306 or something like that, which is about where most major leaguers are.
Okay.
I think he's going to do better than last year. I think he's a guy that relies a lot on confidence. If you look at him, you look at what he was saying, just lip reading after a lot of his at-bats in August, right before he got sent down. He would say, things like, man, I can't effing hit. And, obviously he's using the real swear word, and this is a clean show.
Right. Yes, it is.
But he needs a jolt of confidence. And I'm not sure if Kevin Long's the guy who can give that to him. But right now, what I've seen in spring training, his swing still looks too long to me. He's still hitting balls hard, but hitting them hard into the ground. And I think that, he's a better hitter than he was last year, without a doubt. But, a 700 OPS guy with, fielding that poor, that's not a major league starter. I need him to be better than that. The Phillies need him to be an 800 OPS guy if they want to start him.
It's such a hard thing to talk about with Bohm because of what we saw, right? He has it in him. Is he going to be another Scott Kingery? Kingery, I don't know why he's still on the 40-man roster, because they're paying him, I guess. But Kingery has no clue. And I'll be surprised if he has a clue at all coming back. He just – go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I saw him working with Kevin Long, on Twitter a few days ago. And I think his swing actually looks a lot better than what I've seen in the last few years. It looks shorter. It looks compact. And Kingery's swing has always been short.
Right.
But he's a guy who, I could see having, a quote-unquote bounce-back year where he comes back and he has a 720 OPS. He hits, 260. And while he's not a good player, he's a guy that can come off the bench and can play in a double switch for the Phillies. He can play second, short, center field, wherever the Phillies need him. And if you're OPS, unlike Bohm, where Bohm needs to be a good hitter. If Kingery can be just a below-average hitter, he's still valuable for the defense that he provides.
He does. I mean, listen, I think he does provide decent. When you're talking about defense for Kingery, where are you talking about him being at?
I want him to be a super utility man. He's not going to start. I don't want him to be locked into a position. I want him to play second base. I want to play shortstop, third base, left field, center field, right field. I want to play all over the diamond.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've seen him when he played center field. I think he was pretty good. He's got some speed, obviously, and that's what you need in center field. Matt Vierling.
Yeah, I like Vierling. Yeah,
intriguing, isn't it?
Yeah, little sneak peek here. I think we're going to be doing a prospect ranking at Inside the Phillies soon, and I ranked Vierling pretty high on my ranking. I think he's top 5 or 6 prospects for the Phillies right now. He still has his prospect status. I believe it's 110 plate appearances to lose that. Okay. He only had 74 last year. Again, like Bowman his rookie season, his BABIP was high, But as a super utility man, he's valuable because he can play multiple positions. He's, I think, a mediocre center fielder, but you put a mediocre center fielder out who's just, a below average hitter. That's valuable because not every center fielder is a below average hitter. A lot of them are a lot worse. And I think Vierling could be a league average hitter. I want to see a 750 OPS out of him this year.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's going to be – listen, they have pieces. We'll hit the rotation in a minute. But to me, it's just exciting to know that you have this lineup of Schwarber, Harper, Segura, Castellanos, JT, Hoskins. I mean, holy mackerel. And they don't have to swing for the fences, short porches. Summer, the ball flies out there. We all know that. It's just going to be interesting and fun. It's going to be one of those days. I think this team is going to be like the ones when Ryan Howard came up and he was hitting bombs left and right, where everybody's going to. You're not going to want to sit down when the middle of the order's up. You're not going to want to go get that hot dog or go to the bathroom because you want to see.
Maybe it's bad for John Middleton's wallet in the end because less people are going to be buying beers and hot dogs. No one's going to want to leave their seats. Get some extra vendors out there. Get people walking between the aisles more.
Yes.
Keep butts in seats at all times.
That's so true. Good thinking, Ben. That's awesome. You're right. I think that's what they're going to need to do.
Yeah, they need to invest.
You had Howard, and he was the one, and you had Chase, and you had Jimmy. But whatever these guys do, 6, oh my gosh. It's amazing. And the good thing is, Girardi now has so many lineup possibilities. With that lineup, but I just, obviously, here's the issue, I think, and I don't know if you've thought about this or talked about it. Like any roster, the more they play, the more they're ready to play in the position. I'm talking more defensively. The better off they're going to be. Like, Segura is going to be fine. There's no one else playing second base until they give him a blow and Kingery comes in, right? But I need Hoskins to be better, but Schwarber can also play, right? But depending upon what Joe decides to do with the lineup, I don't know that many of those guys are going to be consistently be in the field in a specific position, and that's the only issue. Why? And the defense definitely, to me, is going to suffer for that. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, the defense is going to be bad, but at the end of the day, it's all about the aggregate. You're not scoring. Your defensive runs and your offensive runs aren't, different at the end of the year. It's how many runs you have above average. And if the lineup can outproduce if the positives of the lineup can outproduce the negatives of the defense, then it doesn't matter. Runs are runs. If you're scoring runs versus preventing runs, it's all about the plus minus. And at the end of the day, Castellanos and Schwarber are a plus. I don't think playing left field versus playing DH is that big an issue. You move Kingery every day. Like in 2018, they moved him from second base to shortstop, and he had to focus on learning shortstop and learning to hit at the major league level at the same time. Guys like Schwarber and Castellanos, they don't need to learn to play DH.
Right.
So I think as long as, they're moving from left field to DH instead of, left field to third base, like some have suggested for Castellanos, it's not a worry for me.
Okay. All right. All right, rotation. We've heard about Zach. Hopefully he can come and start at the beginning of the year, and we don't find out that he has a dead arm. That would be nice to know. You got Zach. Probably. What are you hearing about Zach? Is he going to need a month to start him, or what? Or is he on target?
So I think do you guys remember? You remember what they were doing with Ranger in August last year, where they were letting him start 3 innings, then 4 innings, then 4 innings. I think that's a lot like what we're going to see with Zach Wheeler. He's not going to be ready for opening day. I think he'll probably essentially open up the season as the 5th starter with Nola as the 1, and they'll give Wheeler, a 45 pitch limit to open the season.
Okay,
he's got to get those innings somewhere. They might as well have him be in the major leagues instead of the minor leagues.
Oh yeah.
So You'll have Wheeler. I think you'll have everyone in the rotation to start the season. A lot of these guys are going to be on a pitch count and an innings limit. So it's just going to take some time to build these guys up. And frankly, I think the Phillies have one of the best rotations in baseball. It's so deep. As long as you don't have to go to 6 and 7, 1 through 5 is really deep.
And you and I agree on that. I know there'll be a lot of people that could be listening and watching this and say, "What, are you crazy?" But let's take it. Let's go from Wheeler and Nola and Eflin. If Aaron Nola can rebound and get his stuff together, the top three, based on what we've seen, a lot of good potential, right?
Nola
Yeah.
is really. Sorry, I my
Go
audio
ahead.
cut out for a second, but
Okay,
I was going to
go ahead.
say Nola is really interesting to me because pretty much all of the advanced stats and the peripherals say that he should have been a dominant pitcher last year. But I watch that guy every week, and I know that when he was behind in the account, when he was down to 0-2, he allowed something like 13 home runs, which is unacceptable. He had a lot of issues with fastball command behind accounts. So
Mhm.
hitters, once he went to 0-2, they knew he was going to throw the curveball, and they punished him. So he's got to relearn his fastball command, which, he had in 2018, 2019, 2020, but
Mhm.
last year it failed him, and he's got to regain that confidence. If he can do that, I believe that he'll rebound to, the advanced stats, but that is really, really important for him.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start giving up those dingers. You just can't do that. And again,
Mhm.
my biggest pet peeve ever since I've been watching the Phillies when I was in Philadelphia, throwing 0-2 pitches over the plate. I mean, why can't you just waste a freaking pitch, right? Just waste a pitch. That's what now I was brought up on that, Ben, that old philosophy.
Mhm.
Now, Denny McClain I had on the show a couple of years ago, and he said, nah, throw it, try and strike him out. I see, but why are you going to take a chance that you end up throwing a 98 5-mile-an-hour fastball down the middle? Why chance that? And the guy hits it out.
Well, because when you're Aaron Nola and you're one of the league's best pitchers, or you're supposed to be one of the league's best pitchers, you're trying to keep your pitch count low. You're trying to keep, yourself conserved for later innings. And if you're Aaron Nola, you should be able to locate a fastball up in the zone or, low and outside. If you can't do that, then you're doing something wrong. So I'm not for wasting a pitch, but I'm for nibbling. I'm for doing the Vinny Velasquez down 0-2 and trying to hit the corner, just trying to throw the curveball just a little bit outside to get him to chase, but not,
Right.
throw it in the dirt, because
I got
guys know that that's supposed to be coming now. And it's all about the psychology of the game. And if guys are outsmarting you, you got to outsmart them.
Right. Exactly. I totally agree. But it just irks me to see so many 0-2 pitches leave the ballpark. It's like, why did you do that? Why?
Yeah.
Just waste the
And
freaking pitch.
When your fastball command is on,
say it again, Ben.
when your fastball command isn't on, you need to be wasting those 0-2 pitches. You're right.
Yeah,
But Nola
yeah.
needs his fastball command to be an elite pitcher.
Right. Yeah, that fastball setting everything up. And man, hey, listen, that curveball to watch is a thing of beauty. When he's on, man, oh my gosh, it's just a beautiful thing. So who are we missing? Who's the 4 or 5?
So we have Eflin and Suarez. I think they're probably going to go Suarez before Eflin, just because of the season he had last year and the upside. I think Eflin has a lot of upside as well, but Suarez has a little bit more. I like Suarez. I like him a lot, and I think he's going to eat a lot of innings for you, especially if he can, ramp up to a normal pitch count by the second week of August, or second week of April. Excuse me.
It would be nice to see him continue what he did at the end of the year. All right, bullpen. So Hector's gone. What were your thoughts on that?
I like Hector a lot, but 2 years, $17 million it's a lot for a reliever. I'm big on, bullpen should be the last thing a contending team builds. You shouldn't be spending a lot of money on relievers because in the end, they're only throwing at most 60 innings a year and they're too unreliable. What I saw today though from Sir Anthony Dominguez,
okay,
I was blown away.
Really?
I know it's been talked about a lot on Twitter, but oh boy, this guy's gonna be good. I'm gonna put something out here right now. I think by August he's gonna be back to being the Phillies closer if he stays healthy. But he was hitting 98 today on the gun. He had a slider that was wipeout. He struck out the side against the Tigers today, 2 of which were against major leaguers and 1 of which was against Spencer Torkelson, a top 5 prospect. These aren't minor league scrubs. He had life on his fastball. Not great command, but that'll come later. And he had a great slider with great command of it. In 2018, that slider he held batters to a 66 batting average, 0.66 on that slider. If he can regain that in 2021 and he can stay healthy, the Phillies have a piece in Sir Anthony Dominguez.
That's great to hear. I haven't been able to watch anything at all yet. But no, I totally forgot about Sir Anthony. That's awesome. Knable, Familia. What do you got? Thoughts?
I like Knable if he's healthy.
Yes.
I really like Knable if he's healthy, and that's a big if though because he has not been healthy. The one healthy season he had like a 1.78 ERA in 2018 with Milwaukee. He had 52 saves.
Yeah.
The guy is an elite reliever, and he's got a hammer curveball. But it's that big if. I think with Hand and Familia, you're solely as pitchers and not as their personalities. I don't think they're bad signings because you know what you're going to get with them.
Mm-hmm.
With both of those guys, you're going to get a consistent like 3.90 ERA every year. Night to night, crazy volatile. They're hugely inconsistent night to night, but over the course of 60 or 70 innings throughout the season, you know what you're going to get with those guys. And, having more lefty relievers on top of Alvarado, now you have Hand and Alvarado to deal with guys like Soto. And I believe, is Acuna a lefty? Acuna's a lefty, to deal with those big lefties in the division.
I can only hope that Alvarado and Familia can just throw strikes. That's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're throwing 100, just throw a strike. And the guy hits it. Just throw a damn strike. Don't get into those 2-2, 3-2, 2-1 counts because you're going to throw a fastball and they know it's coming and it's going to be hit. So they've got to be smart. Like you said, they got to begin to outsmart those guys too. But, you mentioned those names. We know what they've been. We can only hope for this upcoming season that they get their stuff together. And, again, could they surprise people? Yeah. In that bullpen, they could. So it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait to probably end up watching more towards the end of spring training because I'm working during the day and I got stuff doing in the evening and it's tough. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to try and see when that regular lineup, he puts that lineup out there and take a peek. But I just picked up the MLB package down here. We have what's called Spectrum down here.
Oh boy.
You have Comcast, or
I'm in Boston right now. I live in Philly during the winter. I'm finishing up my school for the rest of my life, hopefully. But in Boston, I have. I guess it's Xfinity in both Boston and Philadelphia.
So much better.
Yeah,
so much. You'd be able to talk into it, right? Phillies baseball. We went to South Carolina last week. South Carolina, right?
Yeah.
We get in a little place we're at. It's got Comcast, Xfinity. My wife is so happy.
Hallelujah.
Show me blank. There it is. This Spectrum sucks. Speaking of sucks, not really sucks, but the name of the show is The Burn with Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a burn, Ben. What burns you right now?
What burns me? Well, you already touched on Odubel Herrera. That burns me. The money that burns me, the money that we're wasting on Scott Kingery. Yeah. I don't know. My life is so Phillies focused that there's so little that I'm thinking of that's not Phillies.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Yeah. That's great.
The money that the Phillies are wasting on Didi Gregorius and Scott Kingery, because they are, I believe, the top 2 or 3 payroll in baseball right now. And frankly, they should be so much better than they are. I'm glad that they're good, but they should be great.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right, I wrote it down. I'm compiling a list of all my guests. At some point, I'm going to put them all together and put it out there.
Sounds good.
Ben, what are you studying, Ben?
Well, what else? Journalism.
Good for you. And are you your senior this year?
Yeah, I have took the final exam of my life today, and I should be working full-time this summer, and hallelujah, no more academia.
Congrats to you, my friend. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Happy for you. Great job. Listen, this is Ben Silver. His Twitter handle, Not Inconsistent.
Yes.
I love that. It's so different.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you write for Phillies SI, right?
Yes, Inside the Phillies. Inside the Phillies at Sports Illustrated.
Yes. Ben, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Yeah, really. Thank you for having me, Mitch. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely, Ben. Have a great night. Congrats on your graduation and no more tests. Yay.
Oh, hallelujah. All All right. Thank you, Mitch.
All right, take
Have a
care,
good
man.
one.
Thanks. You too. All right, thank you to my guests. It was a great show. Brandon Verzel, Carol Sheldon, Mary Moore, Ben Silver. No show next week. The week after, you need to tune in. It's a baseball centric week and sports because I got Julian Gularte coming up and talking to MLB. Craig Calcaterra, he's got a book coming out about fandom. And the president of the Baseball Hall of Fame, Josh Rawitch. That is going to be on April the 5th. Everybody have a great night. We'll talk to you then. This has been The Burn with Mitch Bernstein on 12 Ounce Sports. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.